Welcome to the MLS Show. Yes, we're back. I know it's a bit intermittent, but it just is. So bear with us for now. It will get better. We're both busy. But yeah, listen, it makes you miss us more and then you want to watch the videos more when we're here. So thank you very much for watching. I am joined by Scott Nicholls. Scott, how are you, mate?
I'm great. Thank you for asking, Baz. Absence always makes the heart grow fonder, so it's always great for me to come back on after a couple of weeks of being away, talk some MLS with you, and for the people of the MLS Show's YouTube subscription, people, all those kind of people. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, cool. You can tell me a little bit about some exciting things you've been doing just lately on your Beyond the Pitch podcast. But let's kick off, as we always do, with the weekend's games. Toronto 2, New England Revolution 0 at BMO Stadium, or BMO Field rather. BMO Field becoming the fortress that I guess that was what they wanted it to become. And that man Giovinco back amongst the goals again.
Yeah, finally back. I mean, we talked. Look, he can't be Super Seba all of the time. You have to remember this. You have to, he's not going to always score 30 goals or be involved in 30 goals a season. And frankly, it's a good thing that he's not. Right now, Toronto's only let in 15 goals in 17 games. They're scoring more than, or just a little bit less than a goal a game, actually, 2 goals a game. But look, it's not all coming from Giovinco. You're seeing guys step up now. You're seeing Rikic. You're seeing Raheem Edwards. You're seeing Jersey Altidore be a more complete player this season. By and large, this is still a product of Giovinco being Giovinco. And look, he scores important goals for him. Look at the 2 goals he scored in the Canadian Championship final the other night for him, right? 94th minute winner, I think it was. So he's still having an effect. And look, BMO, they were always going to make that place a fortress after they managed to lose to Seattle there in MLS Cup last year.
Nightmare. Oh, dear, thank you for saying that as well. Just quickly on the Revs, disappointing again. 8th position at the moment in the Eastern Conference. They're up and down, aren't they?
Yeah, they're a strange one, the Revs. It's tough because they have improved defensively a lot of late. I mean, when you look at how they've been doing, so the last 2 games they've lost, and the last 2 games they've lost, so they've dropped 6 points over the last 2 games, of course, because they lost them, but it's to Toronto away and to Chicago too. So when you then look at the standings again, and I'm just clicking around, and I apologise for that, but 6 points, if they could have picked up 4, then they're right on par and they're in the playoff position. So we know MLS is so tough, and it's so transient and cyclical too. But the Revs have been in this transitional period for years. I don't know whether Jay Heaps is a genius or he's stealing a living some days. I really have no idea. It looks like he has Kellen Rowe playing very well in that sort of deeper midfield position, a more central position in midfield. He's even got a US men's national team call up for the Gold Cup too. So there's still exciting things to come from. Diego Fagundes is playing really well right now, maybe the best he's played for a long time, a little bit more consistent, something that Revs fans want to see for a long time. So look, we'll see. But for now, I'm a little bit concerned. 1.18 points per game. It's not good.
No. I mean, he's still got a +2 goal difference, and that buys into the fact that I always say they've got such firepower with Kai Kamara in there, and they win supplying the ammunition. So I'm sure they're going to pick up. But yeah, at the minute, a little bit up and down for me. But like you said, very difficult place to go. BMO Field. Houston won, Dallas won. Your old horns, Houston. Strong affinity there. Good points against Dallas, or opportunity missed? What do you think?
I mean, it's always a good point against Dallas because that Texas Cup, the Texas Derby, that's huge. El Capitan. I think it was they're going to look at it as points dropped because it was at home, and we know what it's like to go in this. We were talking about how you need to win these home games in this league, right? And they'll be disappointed in that. Look, but they the previous week they got a road point in LA, so it kind of cancels each other out. I don't think it's too bad of a result for them. It got a bit chippy. Look, Will Parchman, formerly of the Seattle Times, he actually called it the best on-field rivalry in MLS. And look, from the games that I've seen between the 2 teams, firsthand at BBVA Compass Stadium and now on television, I'd say, yeah, they're right. It's always feisty, but look, it's always... I don't think it's ever mean-spirited, but look, I still think it's a good result for Houston because Dallas is a top team.
certainly are. With the Kubo Torres with a goal and obviously Urruti with another goal as well. He's doing really well this season, Urruti. New York Red Bulls 0 and New York City 2. It had to happen, and it happened at the weekend, Scott.
Yeah, finally they have a win at Red Bull Arena. This is turning into a real rivalry now. I mean, I know that we sort of look at these things like Heineken's rivalry week, and it seems to us as English people as a bit manufactured, and certainly some of the rivalries can seem a little bit manufactured. But this is turning into a legitimate one. Two teams in the same city. I say the same city. Harrison is where the Red Bulls are based, but still, it's not far between the grounds. They're all based in and around the New York area, these fans, and they really do not like each other. And I think part of that is when New York City, I was talking to a Red Bulls fan actually when I covered a New York City FC game back in May of last year at Yankee Stadium, and he was saying, I was a Red Bulls fan, but I became a New York City fan because this was a team that was in New York. Right. And I wanted to have my team in New York. So they were actually doing a promotion, which I didn't know anything about, where you took your Red Bulls jersey and you traded it in for a New York CFC jersey. I mean, that's a real rivalry. When I was going, the day I went was the day that they were throwing tear gas at each other, for crying out loud. Look, we don't need to be European and have this hooligan culture come into the game in America. We don't need that, guys, all right? Everyone can behave yourselves. You can still have a rivalry without it. But on the field now, it's becoming really, really great. The battle between Davis and Herrera was a really, really good one, I thought. It was really great to see these two under-20 internationals coming together, sort of sparring in the middle of the field. Jack Harrison with another wonderful goal and some other pieces of skill. I mean, what a player David Villa is too. Look, did the Red Bulls turn up? No. But honestly, it just seems like New York City FC wanted it more on the day. And, this is going to fuel the fire because I think there's only been 8 meetings between the two teams since New York City entered the league. Not all in MLS, I should say, but, this is only 2 wins now for New York City FC. So I want to add to that.
Oh, definitely. But what a fantastic win. It is a tough place to go. And like we were saying, just previously, that it's been heavily weighted in terms of home victories this season. So for them to go to Red Bull Arena and come away with a victory, outstanding results. Harrison, like you said, what a fantastic goal. And a goal for Ben Sweat, is it? His first ever MLS goal? Good header.
Ben Sweat.
Great name.
My favourite name in MLS, one of them anyway.
Great name for a footballer. So, fantastic win for Patrick Vieira's men there. Moving on, Atlanta United 1, Colorado Rapids 0. I watched this game. Tim Howard had a decent game for Colorado. Atlanta, Joseph Martinez back amongst the goals. He scored his second in his last 3 games since coming back after being out for a while. And this kid can play. He certainly can play.
Yeah, I think it's now, 8 games, 7 goals for him in total. We've been talking about a lot on my podcast on Beyond the Pitch and also on this show about how important he is to this team. I mean, you think the run of results they had, it's like, I don't want to say it's like Toronto losing Javinko because it's bigger than that, losing Joseph Martinez, because he is real quality. He is for Atlanta. It's like Chelsea missing Hazard or, someone like that. It's like Everton missing Lukaku, last season, not this season coming, but still, it's a huge piece to lose. And when you can go on this run that they've been on, and I think they went on a stretch of a bunch of away games in a row. I want to say it was 4 or 5 away games in a row without your top scorer, who at the time had scored 5 goals in 3 MLS appearances. Look, that's going to hurt any team, a guy scoring at that rate, and he's just come straight back in and started doing it when he's come back too, and almost, but for Bill Hamid's fingertips, would have had an equalising goal at the last minute against DC as well. So look, he's sort of dragged them by the sort of scruff of the neck to just above the red line right now. They're a point ahead of the New York Red Bulls, who are outside of the red line. Yeah. Look, we'll see how it goes, but he's if they are to, and it's not just him actually. I want to say it's Yamil Assad might be one of the most underrated players in MLS. He's incredible. He's great with the ball at his feet. Miguel Almiron, all these guys. They just have to sort of figure out some sort of cohesion and maybe replace some of the older pieces like Michael Parkhurst and Laurent Dewitz. But but Jose Martinez coming back is going to help him a lot.
Definitely. I'm really impressed with Almiron. Looks a really, really good player. Just Colorado Rapids bottom in the Western Conference. Just You don't know what to do with Colorado, because you watch them, the strong side. They've got Kevin Doyle in there. Hairston, who's a player. They've got Alan Gordon in there. They've got Tim Howard at the back. There's a makeup of good players and strong players in that side. Dylan Cerner, who hit an absolutely wonderful strike at the weekend. Almost caught the key. Gashi, Shells and Gashi, as well as players there that can do it, like they did last season, when they were fantastic last year. But at the minute, just not really in the groove of things, and bottom, like you say, of the Western Conference.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you were to take an average of all of the teams' away points in the Western Conference, it looks as though the average is going to be something like, let's say 7 or 8 points away from home, right? Yeah. Even let's say 6. Let's say 6 points away from home. You give them 6 points away from home, maybe adjust the goal difference a little bit, but they're in 6th or 7th. They've lost all 7 games on the road this year, not a single point. You cannot do that. Even Real Salt Lake, who is, only 1 point ahead of them in the standings right now. Look, they played 2 extra games, Real Salt Lake. They are much worse than the Colorado team that we're looking at right now. But even Real Salt Lake has 4 points on the road this season. You give Colorado 4 points, they're 9th ahead of Minnesota, and 1 point behind Seattle with 2 games in hand, and only 1 game down on the Vancouver Whitecaps. So the talent is still there. It's just like we've said, and I don't want to keep coming back to it, but I guess we have to. They need to take care of their home games, and they need to start getting points away from home. I know it seems like it doesn't even seem like analysis. It's just sort of like, hey, this is all they need to do. I don't really know what else to say. We know how talented they are, and they have leaders on their team. I don't know what's wrong. Maybe Paolo Mastroni. I mean, he declined to speak to media the other day, Paolo Mastroni. He's very frustrated at the team. I know this because a colleague of mine is out in Colorado right now, saw him going crazy through the locker room doors in the glass. They weren't allowed to enter the locker room. He didn't talk to the press after their US Open Cup loss to Dallas the other night, So, look, everything's obviously going... And it's hard to break out of that mentality, right? When you're a professional, when all you see is defeat and negativity and all these kind of things, it's hard to break out of that. MLS is one of those places where, you feel like in some days you can get a result against anyone, but also when it's going real bad for you, you don't feel like you can get a result against anyone either. So They need to sort that mentality out, see what they can do to sort of jumpstart themselves. Maybe look at somebody in the new the January transfer, and they're looking at me, July transfer window, just to bolster things, But it could be tough to attract some players to that team right now.
Definitely. I mean, 7 losses out of 7 on the road, 5 home wins though. It isn't bad. But I can tell you what's wrong, Scott. 15 goals in 16 games is what's wrong with Colorado Rapids at the minute. If you haven't got goals in your team, how are you going to nick those wins away from home? You need centre forward, you need goals, and that's really where they need to be looking if they want to start turning this round. Let's move on.
Go on. No, I was just going to say, just on that, you look at Jermaine Jones right now, who's injured and in LA. Look at how great he was as an advanced midfielder in Colorado after he left the Revolution, where sometimes he was playing centre back. So, you can't replace his sort of offensive capabilities, with someone like Kevin. I mean, Kevin Doyle is a good striker, but if there's no one like Jermaine Jones enabling someone like Gashi to provide this attacking onus for the team, then you're going to struggle no matter what. So.
Very true indeed. Moving on, Philadelphia 1, DC United 0. Philadelphia up and down, Scott. They started terribly, they picked it up a little bit, lost a couple, but back with an important win against DC at the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, Philadelphia seems to like going in streaks. They lost, I can't remember how many on the trot in the beginning of the season, won 4 on the trot and then lost 3 on the trot, and now they're 1 game into a winning streak, so, let's see how long they can keep that up for. When you look at their pathway to going above the red line, it's not really that great of a task. I mean, it's still very tight in there. If they win their game in hand, they are 2 points away from being above that red line and being above teams like the Red Bulls and Atlanta United. So just goes to show you that it's not always about how you start in MLS, it's how you finish. Andre Blake had himself a day in goal against DC. I mean, a penalty save and then 2 great saves, including one that's nominated for Save of the Week that looks like it might narrowly miss out to Alex Bono's save against the Revolution and Teal Bunbury. But look, I mean, he is a big part of the reason that they have a +1 goal difference right now. So, he's going to be key to going forward.
Most definitely. DC United, thoughts on them?
They need. I don't know what it is with them. This is how we all assumed that they would be last season. When they came to the Revs opening day when I was in New England last year, and they fielded the team with Travis Warrer in goal, and sort of like a left back playing centre midfield, and all these different things. Everyone was sort of questioning why Ben Olsen would put out this kind of team. It's because they don't have much depth. They don't really have these players. Acosta's a great player, and Lamar Nagel is passable too. But you need guys. They miss people like Trapp. They miss those kind of people. So we'll see what they can do. But I think that they're just not a very good team right now. Ian Harkes had a lot of promise, but I'm struggling to get on the Ian Harkes train. But they have quality defenders like Steve Birnbaum. It's just, and then Bill Hamid in goal. So look, they have some talent. It's not a great team though. And that's something what I think they need to address going forward here.
Most definitely. Moving on, Columbus Crew 4, Montreal Impact 1. Columbus Crew strong at home. Ola Kamara continues to score, as does Higuain. There was even goal for Kikuka Mane. Got in on the act as well. But for Montreal Impact, you were starting to get worried about them now, aren't you?
Yeah, it is. It's looking a little bit worrying for them. I mean, it's easy for me to say 2 wins and they're on the same points as Atlanta because they have 2 games in hand, but you just wonder where those wins are going to come from sometimes because they are literally Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, we know they're a second half of the season team, so let's see what happens there. Some rumours of some Argentines coming over from Bologna, like we regularly see with Montreal, with Joe Saputo being the owner of both teams. Look, Jemile has just had a chance to settle. So let's see how he works. Him and Piatti are creating a great relationship together. They're both providing assists for each other, scoring goals from each other, and he just seems to play wherever Piatti's playing. While he doesn't have a defined role in this team, he's sort of following the best player on Montreal around, and that's how he scored his goal a couple of weeks ago, the first goal that he scored for Montreal. So, I just think that any team that has a 37-year-old, centre attacker midfielder playing for him in MLS right now, and no disrespect to the captain, I love you, Patrice, but maybe his swan song should have been in the derby. In the playoffs in the Eastern Conference Championships last year. I think if they'd have won that, got to MLS Cup, maybe he'd have bowed out. But I think that he thought that they could make another run this season, and it just doesn't look like they're equipped. I mean, you look at when Mancosu got hurt, they're down to Anthony Jackson-Hamel, and he's done well, don't get me wrong. He's been a great stand-in, but you can't rely on Anthony Jackson-Hamel to carry a team forward. You need Matteo Mancosu. You need someone like Didier Drogba in that team, a real difference maker to accompany someone like Piatti and to accompany someone like Jemile as well. Laurent Simon is just having a terrible season. They just lost Oyongo, Ambriose Oyongo. They lost him for a very long time. He's damaged cruciate ligaments. He's dislocated patella. It was a horrible injury that he suffered. So you won't be seeing him back. So what do? You have Chris Duval playing on fullback in Montreal right now. I don't know whether he's an upgrade on whatever they had before, but I do remember him being completely outmuscled by Nacho Piatti in the game at Red Bull Arena. So in the playoffs. So let's see what they do in the transfer window. It seems like they're going to bring in more attacking players. I don't know. While depth is a concern up top as well, maybe it would be good to bring in some players on the defensive side of the ball with all the struggles they're having right now.
Possibly, you could be correct. It was Columbus Crew's 6th home victory of the season. Montreal have only won away from home once, so probably not a surprise really in terms of.
But have 5 ties. They have 5 ties on the road, though. Montreal. That's the thing. They're not an easy team to beat on the road. They've only lost 3 times out of 9 games, so they got one of the better, I would say, records on the road in MLS right now, considering how bad everybody else is. But this is still a good look. Given how good Montreal is on the road, like grinding out points, this is still a good win, a vital win for Columbus.
Definitely. Moving on, Adrian Heath's Minnesota United. They started off the season like horrendously, and have just got better and better and better. And this is what we see. fresh off the back of a 3-2 home win against Portland Timbers in the week. They go 2-0 down at home to Vancouver and still have that fighting spirit. And this is what we saw from Heath's team when he was manager at Orlando City. There's lots of goals in the game. Never say die. Can come back from, looking dead and buried in games. They can come back from that. If he could just get that defence right, offensively, he doesn't seem to have a problem. Defensively, still hampering them. But, I think they're having a really solid opening season in MLS.
Yeah, compared to how they started, I mean, they are like chalk and cheese, right? I mean, and Christian Ramirez, it's a blessing in disguise for Minnesota that he didn't get a US men's national team call for the Gold Cup, because I'll tell you what, that kid deserves to be there, and I can't understand why Jairus Zardes is. Because, anyway. So, look, they need someone better than Bobby Shuttleworth. Bobby Shuttleworth, committed himself badly for one of the goals that they conceded against Vancouver the other day. And even though it's still a good result for them to come back from 2-0 down, at least they're showing that fighting spirit, like you say. Hey, they're still an Adrian Heath team in that they have a negative 14 goal difference. So
they lost the first 2 games, 5-1 and 6-1. So there's 9 goals immediately.
7. Well, yeah, it's by 8. So they might have a negative 6 goal difference, but still, he has a habit of being not very good.
Salt Lake, Scott.
I know, they are even worse. Mike Petke has a lot of work to do.
Minus 20. But,
he has a lot of work to do.
Oh, most definitely. But look at if you look at Minnesota's home record, 5 victories at home in 9 games already for an expansion team. Or, if the team first year in MLS, to have 5 victories in 9 already, I think it's really impressive. Away from home, no victories, and that'll be the key. The key to winning. Saying that, Houston Dynamo in second place have got an identical away record to Minnesota.
Yeah,
6 defeats, 2 ties. So if Adrian Heath could potentially get Minnesota a little bit tighter at the back, they've got goals in the team, like you've just said. Molino, Ramirez, Ibarra. There's players there who can get goals if they can keep it tight at the back.
Yeah, and I still think Adrian Heath is the right person to guide him through this inaugural season. You see how good he was at guiding Orlando City through it, and don't make no mistake about it. That's why Minnesota would have approached Adrian Heath about the job initially, I would have thought, because Orlando narrowly missed out on the playoffs in their first season, I believe. Am I correct in that? It was quite narrow if they did miss out at all.
It wasn't too bad last year. Yeah, they got themselves back into it. What happened in his inaugural season was they went on a run where they only won 1 game in 11, and that wrecked the season in the middle of the season. And then they won a lot of games towards the end. And you're right, it ended up being it probably looked better than it was in terms of they made up a lot of ground. So they ended up, say, 4 points off the playoffs. But that was a good first season.
7th position, 4 points off the playoffs for an expansion team that just made itself, a year earlier, constructed a roster, got them all playing together, figuring out who, and a lot of these players, at least in Orlando, a lot of the players may not have played together before, and at least Minnesota have retained a couple of those guys, like Ibarra came back, and then you have Ramirez still there, so Jabrowski not there anymore, he was a big part of their team in NASL, so, but still, look, I mean, Adrian Heath's the right guy to keep just sort of like chugging along. We'll see how he does for the rest of the season going forward. But look, they're not too much worse than Seattle right now, and that's something that they can sort of tip their hats to, I guess.
Definitely. I mean, I think, to be honest, there's a lot of similarities with the two teams, given that Orlando City started, I think it was 2010. When Adrian Heath was very, very successful at USL. So, he's then took over a team here at Minnesota that have had a lot of players together. However, he's had to, like you've rightly said, he's had to almost learn on the job. The advantage he had at Orlando City was he'd gone through that process. He came from Austin, Texas with Phil Rawlins, went to Orlando City. They set that team up together. They all grew together. You had players like Dom Dwyer on loan who'd done well before they became MLS, an MLS side. Where it's been a little bit different for him here is, although Minnesota were a team and were established, he's come in and he's had to learn almost on the job. And I think that's what happened the first few weeks of the season. He got a good spanking and he's seen where he's had to tinker it. You've scored 24 goals. You've got 9 goals more than Colorado. So that tells you that there's goals in them. More than Seattle, more than Vancouver, more than San Jose, more than FC Dallas. They've scored more goals than Dallas.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's goals in this team. They've got more goals than Sporting Kansas City, who lead the Western Conference.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
No.
so-
I mean, Christian Ramirez is a wonderful player. I mean,
Exactly.
you know, I mean, if you look at it as well, they've got more goals than Orlando City does this season.
Mm.
You know, the East seems to be a little bit more free scoring, but still, you know, they've got 7 more goals than the Red Bulls. So, and they have Bradley White Phillips, an established MLS striker, you know, who holds the record in a season, I believe, for goals. So, look, as long as you can keep feeding Christian Ramirez those chances, he will score them.
Definitely.
So you just need to sort out what's going on at the back. Maybe that's what they target in this transfer window that's coming up.
Most definitely, and only 4 points off the red line, like you rightly said before. But
Right.
you know, Vancouver doing okay, just a point behind the Galaxy. A couple of years ago, this was a side I loved watching. Vancouver. They were young, they were hungry, they pressed, scored goals, and lost in the playoff semi-finals, I think it was, against Portland Timbers, who went on to win it. And Carl Robinson just hasn't been able to recreate that same kind of vibe for them, but they're bobbing along, aren't they, okay at the minute?
Yeah, they're doing okay. I mean, look, Freddie Montero has been great for him. I think the Sounders will be kicking themselves that they didn't bring him back when given the opportunity. But look, you know, Breck Shea's doing very well for them too. I thought that Giles Barnes would do well for them until he got traded to Orlando.
Yeah.
So they're one of these teams. They sort of just chug and chug and chug. And remember, they're sort of really 2 games off the pace right now with 21 points. So there's every chance that they could overtake the Portland Timbers in 2 games, and we won't know, you know, what to think of them then.
Moving on, Scott, to, for me, at the moment, the best team in MLS to watch. That is the Chicago Fire. They beat my side 4-0, Orlando City. David Acam, what a performance with a hat-trick, but they're just so impressive so far this season, aren't they, Chicago Fire?
Yeah, and they're just what a difference a couple players can make. And you know, they had a big clear out in the you know, they got rid of Yalp. You know, Paunovic is in. You started to see this team get its identity at the end of last season. You could sort of start to see the beginnings of what he wanted to do. Yeah. But look, they've been in a bit of a freefall since 2009. They've only had 1 playoff appearance since 2009, and I think they got knocked out in the first knockout round of the playoffs in that too. Look, Dax McCartney, Bastian Schweinsteiger, always going to make a difference on any team. And Bastian Schweinsteiger, you know, you don't have to measure his success with assists just because he's a midfielder. You know, the vibe that he brings to that locker room, the leadership, you can see the quality. You can see that he makes everybody around him just that little bit better. It's like putting a stats boost on them in FIFA or something, you know, on every single player. You know, and look, he enables people like David Acam to do things, to do David Acam things, like score hat-tricks and set through Nemanja Nikolic for his 14th goal of the season, you know. I mean, what an outstanding player that Nikolic is, too. That was a great pickup by them. You know, and then you think of the players that are not playing, that are playing more roles than starring roles, but still adding to the team, guys like Solignac and guys like Deleu. You know, I mean, you think this team, you know, I think, so I'm going to do a bit of a name drop right now, I suppose, but on my podcast recently, we were featured on NBC Sports' main podcast network and on their website because we interviewed Bob Bradley. And Bob Bradley was saying that Greg Vanney was saying this Toronto team is the deepest that he's ever seen in MLS, but he was saying that, you know, he thinks the Chicago team could give him a run for their money too because there's just quality all over that side. Yeah. So look, it's no surprise to me just with guys like, you know, taking someone away like Dax from the Red Bulls is huge. Look at where the Red Bulls sit and where the Chicago sit right now. It's like you know, they've just swapped lives. It's like an alternate universe from last year. And you know, who'd have thought that they'd be 1 point behind Toronto after half of the season? Yeah. You know, in second place in the East, and I believe second place in the Supporters' Shield. You know, the last time they won MLS Cup was in 1998 under Bob Bradley. So that tells you all you need to know about how hungry these fans are for another MLS Cup. Let's just say that.
Definitely, absolutely outstanding to watch this season. Just can't give them any more praise than that. Absolutely outstanding. No. Orlando City missing Kyle Larin. He's now back. It's been lifted now. He's now free to join back into training after serving a bit of a ban. And rightly so. We won't go on about that. That's happened now. But they need to get themselves back. Doing really well, though. I mean, 4th so far in the Eastern Conference. But whereas it was quite close, there's now a 9-point gap between Toronto and Orlando. But they are still there. Again, they're another team they need to maybe get a couple of wins on the road. They got the players to do it. It's about stepping up to the plate. But Chicago Fire thoroughly deserve this. I mean, a Calms back heel in the first couple of minutes set the stall.
Set the tone, yeah.
That was it. And then the second goal, I think I'm right in saying it was Schweinsteiger's ball forward. Absolutely fantastic. And, he put that away brilliantly. But what a result for them. The Galaxy 1, Sporting Kansas City 2. Sporting Kansas City top in the Western Conference. Big win for them at Galaxy.
Galaxy have been struggling at home all season. Something that their fans are really, really not happy about. Galaxy's home record, they have 1 home win. 1 win at SubHub Field versus 5 on the road. Yeah. They are like opposite world if I've ever seen it. It looks like someone just made a typo on the MLS website because I just can't believe it.
You look that they're so good away from home. They're the only team really in MLS who are that good away from home. It's bonkers. Yeah,
I'm just looking. There's no one close to them. The only team that's close to them might be New York City FC, who have 4 road wins. So that's the only team that's anywhere close.
Bonkers. But they've got look at Colorado Rapids in the Western Conference, bottom.
Yeah.
5 home wins. LA Galaxy above the red line, 1 home victory. The worst home record in MLS.
Beggars belief, isn't it? And it doesn't help that you have someone like Brian Rowe injured, Dan Kennedy retired, Jaime Pineda sort of just ousted a few seasons ago. The goalkeeping trouble is no stranger to LA right now. Clement Diop with a couple of absolute clangers in that game. I was talking about it with David Priest. I'm sure you guys know who David Priest is. He's on Twitter. He works for the Sunderland Echoes, a former professional goalkeeper, a coach for Barnsley. And we do an alternative Save of the Week podcast. And we were talking about that save today. We talked about the Diop incidents, and he was saying there's if you were to produce a goalkeeping manual, he has done everything wrong for this first goal. He set himself, when he decided he was going to punch it, he had his fists like this way before the ball even came in, tries to punch it away, and it comes off the underside of his hand and goes into the net. I mean, what is he doing? And then he comes for the ball that Iko Para, it looks great as an overhead kick, but Iko Para had no idea that he was coming for him. He was just lucky that he came out flapping his hands and trying to get... So look, the Galaxy have got their own issues. I can't imagine that they'll be looking for a goalkeeper in the window because who does? They might try a loan, possibly bring their... is it John Kempin? I think is their third choice goalkeeper. We may have talked about him before on this show, but yeah, he played in a US Open Cup game, I think, and did pretty well. He had 6 saves on the day. I think they won the game. Maybe they'll look to bring him up. I know for sure that Jovan Kirovski is in Europe looking at players for them right now. But the one thing, and tell me what you think...
There's reports over here that they're about to sign Wesley Sneijder on a 2-year deal, which would be...
See, that's interesting, because I actually heard that Wesley Sneijder might go to Montreal.
I've just read this today. I don't know how true it is, but at the time of recording, there's big news today. I think Taylor Twellman has tweeted it as well, or retweeted it. It wasn't his tweet. I think he's just retweeted it. So
retweeted something else. Yeah, he's a very reliable. If Taylor's retweeting something like that, then I would say that there's probably some truth in it. Mm-hmm. We know that Jovan Kirovski's in Europe, so he could well be talking to Wesley Sneijder's representatives at the same time, trying to finalise that deal for Zlatan Ibrahimovic as well, which I've been hearing has been essentially done since March. So let's see what happens there as well. Even if they do bring Zlatan in, he just released a clothing line that's all welcome to LA and all that kind of stuff. So take that for what you will. But maybe we'll get to see Sneijder and Zlatan. And look, that would be that would be typical of LA Galaxy, right? That would put them back in the sort of Galactico status, because right now they don't have a lot of those players. They have Jack Mack and Jack McBean, the two Jack Macks playing up front.
Yeah.
You know, Jack McBean scored a couple goals the other day. Great to see. But then they have Jaissy Zardes. When are they going to cut the cord? Tell me when they're going to cut the cord with Jaissy Zardes, please. Please, Baz, what are they going to do with this guy?
I don't know. I'm not even going to go there. You know more about him than me. I just see bits of him and he looks good, and then the next time he looks awful. So let's just leave it at that. But Sporting Kansas City doing what they do. They're a top side and proving it again, top of the Western Conference at the moment. And I've got a 5-point gap now on Dallas, who of course have got 2 games in hand and would reclaim the top spot should they win those 2 games. But an excellent win for Sporting Kansas City on the road there. San Jose 2, Real Salt Lake 1. Real Salt Lake losing again isn't really a story, but a big story that has kind of broke over the last week certainly was that San Jose decided to part company with Dom Kinnear. Quite sad because he's been one of MLS's best coaches, but what can you do? They're not doing what they hoped they would do. And what they've done is they've appointed an academy coach, Chris Light. He is or Leach, however you say it. He is. He's now the head coach, and obviously they've got general manager Jesse Fioranelli, who is the general manager above him. A different direction for San Jose.
I think it's not just a different direction for San Jose. I think it's a different direction for the league. I mean, you're seeing what we're seeing, and again, Bob Bradley alluded to this the other day, is that there's a youth movement happening. Good coaches are good coaches. Don't get me wrong. This is not to say that someone like Dom Kinnear has no place in MLS anymore, but if you think about Dom Kinnear, he's like a stately palatial home in a world of sort of modern apartment luxury living. Do you know what I mean? He's an institution, don't get me wrong, and the playoffs in the Western Conference are painted orange because of him. When his time with the Dynamo, and they love Dom Kinnear down at the Dynamo, but I just think that he's maybe getting passed by a little bit now, and what I will say is that this is part of the reason why the Galaxy were not too unhappy to move on from someone like Bruce Arena. I can tell you that much. It's not like they wanted to part company, but the blow was lessened by the fact that they thought that they had a guy in an alpha who could come up. He's been coming up with the LA Galaxy 2 teams. He's been involved in the team for a while, and it's the same with Leitch at San Jose, and it's the same. You're seeing these younger coaches now get into it. Caleb Porter, Jesse Marsh, all these guys, very young guys. Mauro Biello, in Montreal. So Randy Olsen.
We saw it with Seattle when they replaced Siggy Schmidt, who's obviously a big name in Major League Soccer, and they replaced him at the time, and we saw what happened with Seattle last year, didn't we? As a result of it.
Right, yeah. I mean, Schmetzer took over. He looks like a mad scientist with his little guy.
Exactly. I know he's not a young coach, not a 38-year-old coach, of course, but what I'm saying is replacing someone who was a mainstay in MLS, like Siggy Schmidt, like Bruce Arena, like Dom Kinnear.
Yeah, and the thing is with MLS, the way that MLS is structured is that, look, it used to be enough that you could have a good team in MLS and get by as a coach and win games, important games, win MLS Cups, win Open Cups, just if you had a good team. It's not enough to have just a good team anymore. You have to be a good coach. You have to be tactically astute as well. This is why guys like Tata Martino are coming into the league at places like Atlanta. That's why they're reaching out to these people. It's why people like Owen Coyle fail. It's because these old-fashioned coaches are not necessarily the right way to go anymore. We're seeing the move away from older DPs, and we're seeing the youth movement in not just that, but in the coaches too. I think San Jose will be fine. It sucks for Dom Kinnear. It really does. But look, there's a place for him somewhere in this league. Maybe it's at Real Salt Lake instead of Petke at this point. I don't know. But they've only ever fired one coach in the history to get Petke where they are at Real Salt Lake. So look, I think his options are open. Sad, but I think on balance inevitable.
Right. Fair enough. Fair enough, Scott. Well summed up. Another defeat for Real Salt Lake, who was struggling as well. And the final game of the week, Portland Timbers 2, Seattle Sounders 2. And Clint Dempsey can't hold that man down. A 94th minute equaliser. Brilliant header to grab Seattle a very well-earned point at Portland.
Yeah, it had to be him, right? I mean, this is his new role now. I mean, you have to ease him back because of the heart problems that he had, and I hope to God that he does recover fully from that, because that's a scary thing. We see it with players like Czech Tiote recently and Mark Vivian Foe, and you got to be cautious and careful with that. He's on a bit of a run now, Deuce. So. Look, maybe this can give him some sort of kickstart. I don't know how much he's been around the team while he's been recovering from his heart surgery, or if he had, his heart problems. Not surgery. I don't know that he did have surgery, but still, you know what I'm saying. But look, now he's back in the locker room, back on the team. Let's see how much of a difference he can make. Let's see if he can kickstart them into a second half of the season push to get above that red line and put Seattle where they belong in the playoffs.
Definitely. And Portland Timbers in third place. They're always just nestled in there, aren't they? 5 home victories again, just a 1 defeat, and a couple of road wins as well. So Caleb Porter's men always seem to know where to position themselves. There you go. That's the game's done and dusted. We've gone through them. I didn't think we would, Scott, but we did. And we threw a little side. We've done a couple of sides as well. Don't forget to check out Scott's chat with Bob Bradley. Scott, where can they find it? Just remind everybody.
Well, you can currently find it pinned to the top of my page on Twitter, which is at Scott Nicholls. It's me sort of quoting the NBC Sports or NBC Sports Soccer tweet that put it out there for Otis Earl and I. It's actually on the NBC Sports podcast platform on Beyond the Pitch. It's on their website if you go into the soccer tab on NBC Sports, so it's all there. There's a brief write-up about it as well. It's very cool. I'm really happy with it. It turned out great. A lot of interesting stuff. He actually, even if you're not a Chicago Fire fan, Bob talked a lot about Chicago with us, and a lot of sort of interesting history there. A lot of sort of insight into his mindset while he was sort of weighing up whether to leave the Fire and why he left the Fire, why he went home to the Metro Stars in New Jersey, all of these things. I tried to get him to tell us a couple of funny stories about Hristo Stoichkov, but he'd only allude to one very non-committal story about it. But who knows what went on there with Hristo. But yeah, he's a very passionate man. He's definitely going to be back in management soon. As we all know, LAFC is coming into the league, and I was talking to him while he's in LA. Now, officially, he's there for surgery, and I didn't ask him about this out of respect for him giving us the time. But let's just for fun, why don't we speculate and say that maybe he could become the coach of LAFC, and that would be speculation, by the way. So
interesting. Don't forget to check that out. There, it sounds fascinating.
Please do.
Scott doing a fantastic job there with Bob Bradley. Let us know in the comments section below what you think of anything we've been speaking about on this week's show. Tell us what we should be talking about in future, so me and Scott don't have to scratch our heads about what to do. Thanks very much for watching. We'll be back soon. Take it easy. Game
actually, 2 goals a game. But look, it's not all coming from Giovinco. You're seeing guys step up now. You're seeing Rikic. You're seeing Raheem Edwards. You're seeing Josie Altidore be a more complete player this season. By and large, this is still a product of Giovinco being Giovinco. And look, he scores important goals for him. Look at the 2 goals he scored in the Canadian Championship final the other night for him, right? 94th minute winner, I think it was. So he's still having an effect. And look, BMO, they were always going to make that place a fortress after they managed to lose to Seattle there in MLS Cup last year.
Nightmare. Oh, dear, thank you for saying that as well. Just quickly on the Revs, disappointing again. 8th position at the moment in the Eastern Conference. They're up and down, aren't they?
Yeah, they're a strange one, the Revs. It's tough because they have improved defensively a lot of late. I mean, when you look at how they've been doing, so the last 2 games they've lost, and the last 2 games they've lost, so they've dropped 6 points over the last 2 games, of course, because they lost them, but it's to Toronto away and to Chicago too. So when you then look at the standings again, and I'm just clicking around, and I apologise for that, but 6 points, if they could have picked up 4, then they're right on par and they're in the playoff position. So we know MLS is so tough, and it's so transient and cyclical too, But the Revs have been in this transitional period for years. I don't know whether Jay Heaps is a genius or he's stealing a living some days. I really have no idea. It looks like he has Kellen Rowe playing very well in that sort of deeper midfield position, a more central position in midfield. CFC jersey. I mean, that's a real rivalry. When I was going, the day I went was the day that they were throwing tear gas at each other, for crying out loud. Look, we don't need to be European and have this hooligan culture come into the game in America. We don't need that, guys, all right? Everyone can behave yourselves. You can still have a rivalry without it. But on the field now, it's becoming really, really great. The battle between Davis and Herrera was a really, really good one, I thought. It was really great to see these two under-20 internationals coming together, sort of sparring in the middle of the field. Jack Harrison with another wonderful goal and some other pieces of skill. I mean, what a player David Villa is too. Look, did the Rebels turn up? No. But honestly, it just seems like New York City FC wanted it more on the day. And, this is going to fuel the fire because I think there's only been 8 meetings between the two teams since New York City entered the league. Not all in MLS, I should say, but, this is only 2 wins now for New York City FC. So I want to add to that.
Oh, definitely. But what a fantastic win. It is a tough place to go. And like we were saying, just previously, that it's been heavily weighted in terms of home victories this season. So for them to go to Red Bull Arena and come away with a victory, outstanding results. Harrison, like you said, what a fantastic goal. And a goal for Ben Sweat, is it? His first ever MLS goal? Good header.
Ben Sweat.
Great name.
My favourite name in MLS, one of them anyway.
Great name for a footballer. So, fantastic win for Patrick Vieira's men there. Moving on, Atlanta United 1, Colorado Rapids 0. I watched this game.
He's even got a US men's national team call up for the Gold Cup too, so there's still exciting things to come from him. Diego Fagundes is playing really well right now, maybe the best he's played for a long time, a little bit more consistent, something the Revs fans want to see for a long time. So look, we'll see. But for now, I'm a little bit concerned. 1.18 points per game. It's not good.
No. I mean, he's still got a +2 goal difference, and that buys into the fact that I always say they've got such firepower with Kai Kamara in there, and they win supplying the ammunition. So I'm sure they're going to pick up. But yeah, at the minute, a little bit up and down for me. But like you said, very difficult place to go, BMO Field. Houston 1, Dallas 1. Your old horns, Houston. Strong affinity there. Good points against Dallas, or opportunity missed. What do you think?
I mean, it's always a good point against Dallas because that Texas Cup, the Texas Derby, that's huge. El Capitan. I think it was they're going to look at it as points dropped because it was at home, and we know what it's like to go in this league. We were talking about how you need to win these home games in this league, right? And they'll be disappointed in that. Look, but they the previous week they got a road point in LA, so it kind of cancels each other out. I don't think it's too bad of a result for them. It got a bit chippy. Look, Will Parchman, formerly the Seattle Times, he actually called it the best.
Welcome to the MLS Show. Yes, we're back. I know it's a bit intermittent, but it just is. So bear with us for now. It will get better. We're both busy. But yeah, listen, it makes you miss us more, and then you want to watch the videos more when we're here. So thank you very much for watching. I am joined by Scott Nicholls. Scott, how are you, mate?
I'm great. Thank you for asking, Baz. Absence always makes the heart grow fonder, so it's always great for me to come back on after a couple of weeks of being away, talk some MLS with you, and for the people of the MLS Show's YouTube subscription, people, all those kind of people. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, cool. You can tell me a little bit about some exciting things you've been doing just lately on your Beyond the Pitch podcast. But let's kick off, as we always do, with the weekend's games. Toronto 2, New England Revolution 0 at BMO Stadium, or BMO Field rather. BMO Field becoming the fortress that I guess that was what they wanted it to become, and that man Giovinco back amongst the goals again. Yeah,
finally back. I mean, we talked. Look, he can't be Super Seba all of the time. You have to remember this. You have to. He's not going to always score 30 goals or be involved in 30 goals a season. And frankly, it's a good thing that he's not. You know, right now, Toronto's only letting 15 goals in 17 games. They're scoring more than, or just a little bit less than a goal a game. On-field rivalry in MLS. And look, from the games that I've seen between the two teams, firsthand at BBVA Campus Stadium and now on television, I'd say, yeah, they're right. It's always feisty, but look, it's always... I don't think it's ever mean-spirited, but look, I still think it's a good result for Houston because Dallas is a top team.
Certainly are, with the Cubo Torres with a goal and obviously Urruti with another goal as well. He's doing really well this season, Urruti. New York Red Bulls 0 and New York City 2. It had to happen, and it happened at the weekend, Scott.
Yeah, finally, they have a win at Red Bull Arena, and this is turning into a real rivalry now. I mean, you know, I know that we sort of look at, you know, these things like Heineken's rivalry week, and it seems to us as English people as a bit manufactured, and certainly some of the rivalries can seem a little bit manufactured, but this is turning into a legitimate one. Two teams in the same city. You know, I say the same city. Harrison is where the Red Bulls are based, but still, it's not far between the grounds. You know, they're all based in and around the New York area, these fans, and they really do not like each other. And I think part of that is when New York City, I was talking to a Red Bulls fan actually when I covered a New York City FC game back in May of last year at Yankee Stadium, and he was saying, I was a Red Bulls fan, but I became a New York City fan because this was a team that was in New York. Right. And I wanted to have my team in New York. So they were actually doing a promotion, which I didn't know anything about, where you took your Red Bulls jersey and you traded it in for a New York